All right, so I can't pronounce his last name, David McRoy, McRoy. Maybe you can say it.
McIlroy, yeah. Yeah.
McRoy, yeah, in your Irish accent. Writes from his home in Northern Ireland, where he lives with his beautiful wife, Christine, and their two dogs. David has been a solopreneur and an online writer since 2018. He joined Medium and Substack in 2023, gaining a 10,000 following across both platforms in 11 months. He manages three Substack publications: How to Write for a Living, The Solopreneur Stack, and David McRoy Fiction, to which 5,000.5 readers are currently subscribed. His debut novel, The Soulburn Talisman, is due for publication on May 31st, 2024. Very soon. All right.
Yeah.
So, David, thank you again for joining us, and I'm a big fan of your work, and I'm actually paid subscriber to his Substack, and I learn a lot from it. So, David, I think the first thing I want to ask you is, and we talked about this before, but why do you think every writer who wants to monetize should be on Substack?
So yeah, again, thanks very much, Natasha, for having me here today. Really appreciate it. Um, I think Substack is the place to be for writers right now. I see a lot of people moving from more traditional publishing backgrounds into Substack because they have more control there. It's much easier to grow a following and a mailing list within Substack. It has its own sort of internal system for growing. You can move from followers to free subscribers to paid subscribers, and there's just a system and a process for doing that, which is great. And that just frees up writers to write whatever they want to write. Like in my case, across my three publications, I've got the choice of writing about how to write for a living and share my experience in that regard with people like yourselves. And in the solopreneur stack, I can dive into how to get started as a solopreneur and grow that over time into a sustainable system. And then obviously I can share my fiction too. I'm kind of experimenting with that to see how to not how to sell books necessarily, but how to build a fan base and an interest zone around my fiction writing as well. So yeah, I just see a big shift happening at the minute towards online publishing, and Substack seems to tick all the boxes for what anyone needs right now. It's not just writing; it's podcasting, it's video. I said this before, but Substack is kind of the everything app that Twitter is trying to be. It's kind of already nailed it, which is great, and it does it in a much less toxic way than Twitter does. So, yeah, Substack for me is the place to be right now for a writer.
Thank you, David. So I saw that you mentioned that you pretty much left Twitter or X and LinkedIn and focused solely on Substack.
Mm.
Uh, can you elaborate on that? Why do you think LinkedIn and Twitter are not giving you what Substack is giving you?
Yeah, so I'm still on those platforms, but I very rarely use them now. There was a time whenever I was on Twitter, all the time. I would post, 10 times a day. It was my main sort of growth platform back before Elon Musk took it over and essentially destroyed it in the space of a few months.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which maybe you guys experienced as well. Uh, but and the same with LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn, I think at a time it was a more potent platform. It was easier to grow. It was easier to move people from there onto a mailing list where you can sort of control the content that you send them. But I think like every social media platform, if you try to take people off the platform, move them somewhere else, it will automatically suppress your links. So it's not great for that. Twitter and LinkedIn. So I rarely use them now. And to be honest, again, it's mostly because Substack does what I need it to do. I don't need to go externally to grow there. I don't need to post links onto other social media platforms.
Hello.
So
Oh.
um, yeah.
Okay. I think one of your let's say best methods is how you manage to convert the free subscribers into paid subscribers. And how many paid subscribers do you have now?
Well, I've been on Substack actively since probably December. I was on it from last summer, but I sort of actively used it since last December. So my ratio of sort of free subscribers to paid is pretty skewed because most people will take longer to kind of build the following that I've built. I'm not saying that in a boastful sense, of course. I just mean that's just the way it's gone for me over the last few months. So at the minute, I have around 100 paid subscribers across my my publications. That isn't translating into the little orange tick just yet because I have under 100 in my main publication, How to Write for a Living. But hopefully that will cross that line soon. So the ratio, the percentage of conversion isn't amazing just yet, but I think over time that's going to increase. I think if I had a sort of 3 to 4% conversion rate overall, eventually, I'd be happy with that. Because that would give me enough to, make a substantial, sustainable income stream out of Substack.
Mm-hmm. How long do you see yourself? Do you have a goal of when you think you can reach that goal of having a like a
Yeah.
sustainable income from Substack?
It's hard to say exactly. My goal at the start of the year was to get to 10,000 free subscribers by the end of 2024. At the minute, I'm cl I'd say by the end of May, I'd probably be at closer to 7,000. So, I should hit that target before the end of the year. And then in terms of conversion, from what everybody says about Substack and every platform, it just takes time and perseverance and just consistently showing up. So I can't say for sure. I'd hope by the end of the year it would be a kind of more complete loop in terms of income that I get from Substack, and then the more income I get from it, obviously the more time I can justifiably spend on it, and I can test out new systems like maybe creating a podcast or using more video, that sort of thing. So I'd hope by the end of the year I would have a more complete uh, paid community. I'm going to introduce actually something later on this month, a sort of like resource hub for paying subscribers. So I'm going to add a lot of video and audio content to that and how-to guides and that sort of thing as well. So hopefully that will increase the conversion rate as well.
Hmm. So great. I still have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna open the floor, the chance for both Nicole and Christina. Rana was here, but she looks like she is having some difficulty connecting. But Christina, Nicole, do you have any question for David?
Yeah,
It's so.
sure. So can you talk about how you even got the free subscribers? Like, what did you do to really build that community and that following?
Yeah, so I think a big aspect of building a free following is just to be willing to, first of all, spend time on the platform beyond what most people would spend. So a lot of people jump onto a platform and they'll spend 10 minutes there or half an hour, then they'll leave again and they'll come on the next day. I think with every platform when you're trying to build something initially, you got to spend a bit of time on it. So turn that half an hour into 1 hour or 2 hours on it each day. Just at the start, you don't have to do this all the time, but in order to get the momentum going, spend a bit more time on it. Also, don't be afraid to follow people on any platform. If you want to get going, you have to do a bit of following. So the more people you follow at the start within your niche, the better traction your notes will have, and the more traction your notes have, the easier it is to gain more free subscribers. So it's kind of a cycle, and it kind of starts with not being afraid to network on an ongoing basis, and just try and develop a rhythm for yourself. So again, I'm talking about spending 2 hours, and I have the time to do that because I'm a solopreneur. I can sort of dictate my own time. That might not be the case for you guys. But if you can find a system where you can show up each day around the same time, spend a bit of time on Substack or any platform that you're on, and post consistently and do a bit of networking consistently, that gets the ball rolling. And the faster that ball rolls, the easier it is to pick up more free subscribers over time.
And you're not promoting these on any social media platform afterwards,
No,
after you post. So it's really
no,
just with Substack, there's like this community developed. Okay.
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How often are you publishing?
So in terms of publishing, as Natasha said, I've got 3 publications. So I
Right,
publish
on
6 days
Substack.
on Substack. Yeah. So I publish 6 days a week on Substack, which is a lot. But that's split across 3 publications. So I would publish on the Solopreneur Stack, for instance, on Mondays and Wednesdays, and sometimes on Fridays. How to Write for a Living, I publish on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and I publish a roundup post at the weekend. And then with my fiction publication, I publish on Fridays, sort of every couple of weeks, that sort of way. So it's a lot, and most people don't publish that much, but it's just the system I've sort of stumbled into. And I think the more you publish, the easier it is to get into a rhythm, and the easier, once you're in the rhythm, it's easier to grow at the same time then as well. Yeah.
And
Great.
are you doing anything special with like SEO or how to create like a catchy title for even for the Substack name? Like, what do you think? What's your approach?
So when I first started, I I was a real noob when it came to Substack. So I inadvertently called my Substack publication the name of another publication, which is #AmWriting, which I thought was really clever. But then I discovered, like, a few weeks after joining, there already was one called that. So I had to rebrand. And I just tried to call it something really, really straightforward that anybody who comes across it will see straight away what it's all about. So that's why it's called How to Write for a Living, because you know exactly what you're going to get whenever you join it. My logo was made on Canva in like 10 minutes. And the sort of mission statement about writers should be paid for what they do, and here's how to go about it, that sort of thing. It's just all clear, it's straightforward. It takes people from A to B in a matter of seconds, really. Helps them get that understanding straight away. So like, don't worry too much at the start. If you're just starting a publication, don't be afraid to play around with it a little bit. But once you know exactly what it's going to be about, just try and nail the name and the logo and your mission statement straight away. Once you understand what you're going to be making in long term, as long as if you can remove the barriers between someone finding it and understanding what it's about, as quickly as possible, that'll make a big difference to how well you can grow and gain more subscribers. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to ask you something. So can you give us examples of Substack writers like yourself who are making it really big on Substack and actually living off Substack as a form of income, like sustainable income? Can you give us some examples? I'll plug in their Substack in the chat. I plugged in yours here for anyone so that you can follow him. But if you can give us, I know you've been interviewing them on your Substack channels. So if you can give us like the top names of the Substacks that are really making it there as an inspiration, besides yourself, of course.
Yeah. So Russell from the author stack, I think that's what it's called. He's amazing, and the stuff he does on it is fantastic. He'd say he's up there with one of the top writers and top publications for writers to follow. Like, I love it. I love his stuff. I'm sure you've come across him before.
Yeah, I subscribe. I'm a paid subscriber.
Yeah,
I
me too.
like to support authors. I pay.
Yeah, no, he's great, and he's very, very comprehensive. What he shares about, and I think he kind of brought his following from somewhere else. So he didn't build it from scratch on Substack, but he's growing really quickly there anyway, and he's got a really nice conversion rate for his paid subscribers too. So he's definitely a key writer to follow on Substack. I love Christina God as well. Christina is brilliant. She shares great stuff too. She's very, very active on Notes and just shares a lot of content and supports other writers really well too. So definitely give her a follow and check her out. Yeah, there
I'm
she is
putting
there.
it in the chat. Everything.
Yeah. There's the Lemon Tree Mindset. So it's Veronica. Can't remember her second name, but Veronica from the Lemon Tree Mindset. She's brilliant too. Shares great stuff. I think she's actually recently got a book deal with Penguin, which is great.
I saw that. Yeah, I was
yeah.
like, wow, she got a book deal through Substack or through other stuff. I'm just curious,
Yeah, I don't know if it's through Substack necessarily, but I think because she built her own writer platform, I think that contributed to it. So she's doing great. I'm trying to think. Maya from
I
is it one person? Yeah, from One Person Business Success, I think it's called.
I think
Um,
she's Ukrainian. Is it she?
yeah,
I think she's Ukrainian. Or maybe Russian. I'm not sure. I'm not.
yeah.
My
So
yeah, I'll find her.
yeah, she's great too. Yeah. She's more solopreneur kind of based stuff.
Yeah.
But she's fantastic too. And again, put so much effort in, so much work, and it's paying off for her too. So but I mean, Substack is just chock full of writers. Like there's just such a fantastic community and just a network of resources here. So I would just say just browse through notes, browse through publications. Don't be afraid to subscribe to publications either. If you're looking to find more writers to connect with, like I've subscribed to absolutely tons of publications. I turned off my email, um, aspect of it on my settings page because I was getting so many emails coming through.
Yeah.
But subscribe as many as you can and just keep them in your little inbox on Substack and just browse through that every day and check out what's there. It'll also help you get a better handle on how to write headlines that stop people scrolling and click into your stories and your articles as well. Obviously you guys know how to do that anyway, but just to give you an idea on Substack what it's looking for and what successful writers are headlining their stories with, it's really useful to do that too.
Hmm. So one thing I noticed about Substack is that they really care about the quality of writing, and unlike other places, so you won't find like the clickbaity stuff that you might find in places like Medium, and you won't find like the listicles and all of that people churn out, just for SEO purposes, or just to get monetized on Medium and others. Do you agree with this statement about the actual quality of the writing on Substack differs from places like Medium?
Yeah, I think it does. In the sense that I think the communities are a little bit different. So I think, and this is just me, this is my opinion, but I think that the Substack community is often a little bit more mature than Medium, if that makes sense. And I mean that in the sense of their age and also their just their intellectual approach towards writing. So I think on Substack, for instance, you some writers will write in a more bookish sense. So you'll see like longer paragraphs, bigger blocks of text, that sort of thing. Whereas Medium is kind of geared more towards single lines and shorter paragraphs and more digestible content. But they're both very worthwhile. Like I'm both platforms and I love them both equally in different ways. But I think with Substack you've kind of got the best of the best in terms of writing and publishing online right now.
Hmm, thank you. I also want to welcome Rana Swayze, who just joined us. Hi, Rana. If
Hey, Rana.
Hi, Natasha. No, I've been tuning in, but I didn't have the camera on.
okay.
Thank you so
Rana,
much for
of course.
having us, and thank you for this really informative session. I was wondering, coming from the Middle East, that Substack is still not very well known, and not very much used. So as a company based in Jordan, I'm using it on a monthly basis to sort of talk about the projects we've been doing and stuff like that, mostly to our donors and potential clients. And I was wondering where most of your followers are from. Are they from Ireland or or all over? And do you think that using, for example, the podcast feature and other features that are coming up will make it more popular in other regions of the world?
Is this me you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I think based on Substack's analytics, I think actually most of my followers and subscribers are from America. Just because there's just a bigger base of population there, I guess, than Ireland and the UK and Europe. But there's a bit of a mix. And in terms of the podcast feature, I think anything Substack can do to differentiate itself and to diversify it within itself will ultimately help it succeed on the long term. Obviously, it's already succeeding as a writing based platform, but I think if it can borrow what YouTube's already doing and what Spotify's doing, that sort of thing, and kind of integrate it all together, and as I said, create the everything app that Twitter's trying to create, then it will succeed longer term across the world, in the Middle East and here in North America, where I am right now, or Canada, I guess, and the UK too. So yeah.
Thank you, Rana. Rana, if you can just quickly introduce yourself to the group and tell them, what you do,
Yeah,
so
sure.
that they can, yeah.
Sure. My name is Rana, and I'm a freelance journalist. And in 2000, I'm mostly publishing for international media outlets like Bloomberg and the New York Times. But in 2019, I decided to open basically a communications company based in Jordan, and we with Natasha. I completely love Substack in terms of just it's user friendly and the way that it looks, the way that it's easy to write, as I said, user friendly, and that it has a community as well, and easy to use. I used to use MailChimp, by the way, which was not very user friendly. So that's why I really do love Substack. And Natasha helps us with the monthly newsletter, and she's always trying to update me on the new features as well that it provides. I'm not hopeful as a company, and also being in the region. I don't expect to have paid subscribers. My main goal with Substack is to tell people about the projects we're working on and basically our activities to show that we're producing content. But I do find the conversation about monetizing interesting. I would say more on an individual level. But I don't feel I have content to sell yet. And I'm not sure that's where I want to go, because I'm using Substack as a marketing tool.
Thank you, Rana. I think this is a good segue to my next question for David, which is many journalists use Substack, to monetize, but others for personal branding, and not only journalists but writers. And I had this discussion with Nicole here, and Nicole, her ultimate goal, is to get a book deal or publish a book on travel. And what I noticed on Substack, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a number of publishers, agents, and people in the publishing industry. And their main goal is not necessarily to monetize, but to spread awareness, maybe to find other writers, to scout for talent. So I think it's, in addition to the monetizing part, there's the personal branding and the marketing brand. So David, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think as much as you can seek to monetize with Substack and focus on it in that sense, it's just a really good place to market yourself as a writer. I know there are writers out there, like Veronica, who I mentioned before, who has got a publishing deal. That's probably been a long time in the works. But I think if you want to get yourself out there as a writer and just get your writing seen and on a consistent basis, and Substack's a great place to do it. Medium's kind of the same in that sense. I know that, again, it's a different kind of community and a different kind of platform, but I know that Maya, who I mentioned before, she has had articles published in Business Insider, and I think that's kind of come from her writing online through Medium and Substack potentially as well. So I think if you are trying to get published, you're trying to get an agent, you're trying to get your book signed to a deal, then publishing on Substack is a really good option for that too. And also in terms of like paid subscribers, if you're trying to build an income stream through Substack, you can also include advertising within your articles too. So you can also monetize your free content, if you know what I mean. It is okay to do that on Substack. So if you want to have applicable advertisers place ads in a aesthetically pleasing way within your Substack publications, you can do that too. So you don't necessarily have to have lots of paid subscribers in order to generate income from your publications. You can get that through advertising. But yeah, just go back to your original question, Natasha. Yeah, I think Substack is a great place just to promote yourself as a writer and build that personal brand and just get seen by the right people. Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask a
Christina?
question?
Mhm.
Speaking about newsletters again, so I kind of dabble in like children's writing, so picture books and YA and stuff like that. And everybody says you need to have a newsletter, but they seem to be like all the authors I follow, they seem to still be using MailChimp. And I'm wondering if that's changing. Like, should we just be totally, I don't know, like maybe the kid lit world is different, or maybe we should all be going to Substack for this at this point.
I think well, I think in general with email platforms, Google's kind of changed the game a little bit recently because they've made a few changes to like Gmail and things like that. That basically funnels newsletter editions towards their. They've created kind of like a For You sort of section now, I think, on Gmail, or they're going to create a For You section. So a lot of people's newsletters are going to go towards into a different compartment of their inboxes, and that's based on like an AI analysis that Google's created within Gmail. So people are seeing their open rates drop across the board in terms of email platforms. I think personally that platforms like MailChimp and I would say older sort of platforms of that are kind of phasing out a little bit. Their subscription prices are increasing all the time because I think they're maybe losing members, and a lot of those members are probably going to things like Substack or maybe ConvertKit or that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I mean I'm kind of all in on Substack right now just because I think it ticks all the boxes for me. But I know other people love things like ConvertKit too, because there is a really great networking feature with that. And Beehive is another good option as well. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because you're building an email subscriber base, so you can move them anywhere. So if you decide at some point you want to move from Substack to a different platform, you can do that at any stage. It's not an issue. So for me, I would just focus on one platform right now, Christina, and just kind of build there. And wherever you can grow fastest. And in terms of kidlit as well, I think that's awesome that you're doing that. Like my book is coming out as like a young adult, sort of like middle grades kind of novel. So I'm constantly working on ways to promote that and try to find the right audience for it. So it's a fun experiment, and I think Substack's a good place to try that. Try that out. Yeah.
And you mentioned thinking about doing video later on for your Substack. What's happening right now? Like, are people really incorporating multimedia, or is it still more just written based?
Well, Substack have like quite recently introduced video into notes, so you might start to see more video appearing on the notes feed now. Like for instance, we saw a bear yesterday in Canada, so we filmed that and then stuck it on notes, and it got a lot of traction for some reason. But in terms of like just talking about what you're doing, people these days value authenticity above all else. So if you wanted to jump onto notes and just record a video and say like, hey guys, this is what's happening with my book right now, or here's my writing space, or that sort of thing, give a little update and put it on notes, people will probably be drawn to that really easily. You can add video to your actual posts within your publication too. I've seen people add it to their about page, which I'm going to do as well. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to record a little video for that and introduce people to my publication through video rather than just like reading a block of text. So definitely find ways to incorporate it. Don't feel that you need to. If you don't feel comfortable in video, don't feel you have to do that. But If you do enjoy it, then go for it. And I'm actually not a fan of video, like for myself personally, because I'm quite introverted, so it always kind of makes me feel kind of uncomfortable. But I force myself to do it, because I know that it can be beneficial. Yeah,
Well, thank you.
no worries.
So David, I got ahead, Nicole. Yeah.
Sorry. Because I'm still relatively new to Substack and I subscribe to a number of different publications which get sent to my email, and that's really how I interact with it. It's just by these specific people's newsletters coming into me. So in regards to the notes section, I'm curious, is this kind of what like shorts are to YouTube? Is it like just little quick moments that writers or readers or whoever can grab onto without having to digest like a ton of content? And do you see that getting more traction than actual posts you make, or like what's your experience with that?
Yeah, so I think Notes has been around for maybe a year and a half or so now, or something like that, on Substack. So it's basically like the social media wing
Okay.
of Substack. And yeah, you described it as like YouTube Shorts and that sort of thing, and that's basically what it is. It's kind of YouTube Shorts. It's like a Twitter feed. It's an Instagram feed. It's kind of everything like molded into one. And you don't have to use it. It's not an obligation, as you say. You can just digest the content through email. But I think Substack is trying to make itself more like other platforms in that regard, but it's doing it more successfully than other platforms have managed to do, like, Instagram Reels, trying to copy TikTok, because whenever the TikTok boom was happening, that sort of thing. I think Substack has done it in a slower way, and it's kind of worked better. But certainly, again, if you're promoting your own content, or if you want to find other writers to network with, then Notes is a really good place to do that. But if you just want to read publications, then yeah, just stick with email and do that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So, David, I noticed that I want to go back to fiction, since we have Christina who's dabbling in fiction, that you're doing really well in promoting your book inside Substack. So I noticed that you put a picture of your book with a link to pre-order inside the newsletter. And also, you said you're going to be sharing, or you did share, the first chapter of your book, and your publisher was okay with that. And I noticed an experiment that's happening on Substack, which is called serialized fiction, where people are actually publishing the whole book on Substack, I think a chapter a week. Where do you see that going? Is that just a trend, or where do you see that going?
I think it's really cool, actually, that people are trying that. I think that I don't think it's just a trend. I think that's going to be the way things are going to move in the next few years. I've seen people sort of put out the call for Substack to allow people to sell their books within the platform. So there'll be like a book section where that people can showcase all their novels, and like on Amazon essentially, and people can download them and buy them and read them in their own time. I think serialized fiction, I think for me, I'm always slightly dubious about it, in the sense that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable putting my entire book out there on the internet, that, especially in the age of AI, where it's everything's just being sifted and borrowed by AI platforms. I'd be a little bit dubious about putting my entire book there. But as you said, I've put out the first sort of 2 or 3 chapters of my novel as like a teaser, like essentially like a teaser trailer for the rest of the book. And I think that's working quite well. It's giving people an idea of what the rest of the book's going to be like, and if it's going to suit them or not. Is an unfortunate trend in writing these days, where people buy novels online, read them, and then return them, like get their money back for them, which is a really, really terrible thing to do to authors, but people do it, unfortunately. I think it helps if you can give people a little teaser, a little taster of what your book's going to be like, so they'll know, okay, this is the kind of novel I'm going to enjoy. And Substack's great for that. It offers you the opportunity to do that, which I think is really helpful. I'm still trying to figure it out in terms of posting fiction. I'm still experimenting with stuff all the time. As you said, Natasha, I've been posting like a clickable banner within my publication posts at the minute. And personally, I actually have no idea what level of success that's producing, because my publisher can see pre-orders and that sort of thing, and I can't see any of that just yet. So I'll know better in maybe a few months how well that's worked. But yeah, I do think serialized fiction on places like Substack is going to be the future, and it's just how people go about that in a way that protects their work, and also lets them promote it in an active way. Yeah.
Any other questions? Christine and Nicole?
I mean, I probably have a lot. I just need to think some more. Yeah.
It's hard on the spot.
I guess it's really about finding your brand, right? And picking your niche, like what you're going, like part of me, I don't really have one yet, I guess. Like I know there's one person I follow and it's more like her, kind of like a blog, like about things going on in her life, which I suppose is a brand in itself, right? But how do those do? I guess they don't really do well, right?
I think
they
there's
can
a
turn them into a book. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead,
Yeah.
David. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think there's if you can find the balance between like your personal life and what you're trying to put out as a writer, I think that works fantastically well. I think if you go too far in either direction, it doesn't work. You know, if you only post stuff about your personal life, and you're essentially sharing like a journal, then there's only going to be like a limited readership for that. But at the same time, if you only publish your writing based content and nothing ever about yourself, it's hard for people to connect with you. So for me, I tended to do a bit of a mix. You know, I'll post, on notes, for instance, I'll post like a writing based post with a bit of like guidance about something, but I'll also share pictures of bears that I've seen in Canada, because people want to see that kind of stuff too, and see what I'm doing in my personal life. And you can just create that connection with your following. You can create a newsletter and put stuff out there every week, and that's great. But unless you build a community around yourself, it probably won't last the long term. I know that for me, the writers that I follow and the newsletters that I follow most avidly do share things about their own personal lives. There's a guy I follow called Kieran Drew. He's on Twitter and stuff, and he shares about writing all the time, and he's great. And he put something in one of his newsletters recently about saying how he always reads fantasy novels. So I replied and just said, like, what are you reading right now? What's your favorite fantasy series? And he replied back to me and stuff. And there's a bit of connection there. And I think if you can find that with your readers, that will really help you succeed in the long term. So don't be afraid to share about yourself. If you've got stuff to share you think is interesting and is relevant, then do it. But at the same time, just try and mix that with your professional life as well, and try and offer something to your readers, so they're going to get value from what you're putting out.
Would you recommend, if you have different personas, I guess? So I'm a journalist, and I do like serious stuff, but then I'm also writing like these picture books, right? And like silly stories and stuff like that. And I ended up splitting my Twitter account finally, because I was always worried, like, are people going to judge me for like the other side, right? Like, so I'm wondering like how you have two different you have 3 Substacks, I think, right?
Great, yeah.
Is that something I should also like, I have one for my journalism, right? And one for my more fun kid lit stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, don't be afraid to split them. Yeah, definitely make more than one publication. I asked my free subscribers before I created my 3rd publication, should I integrate this with How to Write for a Living? So should I have like a fiction section within that publication? And the general consensus was no, just make a separate publication for it. It just means as well that you're not gonna annoy anybody who's come to find out, for you to read your journalistic pieces. But at the same time, you can connect them, so you can put like a link on your journalism publication to your fiction as well. You can also create sections in Substack, so they basically kind of work as almost like separate newsletters within the newsletter. So if you create a section for something specifically about your journalism, that's not about the general kind of stuff you're writing about, but it's a specific topic, and people can subscribe to that specifically, and they'll get emails about that separately from everything else. So Substack's really good at allowing you to integrate stuff and also segment stuff based on what your audience are looking for.
Yeah. I was going to ask one more question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It was at the top of my head. Okay, maybe if you want to go, Nicole, and then I'll come back to my.
I have like a logistical question in terms of word count. Do you find that there's a sweet spot?
Again, I think the Substack audience, because they want something a bit more meaty, I tend to write longer pieces on Substack than I write on Medium. Medium's more sort of shorter, more digestible pieces there. I wouldn't say there's like an ideal word count necessarily. I think as long as you present it in the right way, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's broken up nicely with, giving your reader an opportunity to rest while they're reading your piece. It's not a wall of text, obviously, but there's pictures in there, there's links to other things, there's dividers. For me, I will come and read a piece on Substack, and then I'll read like 20%, then I'll go away and do something else and come back and then read another 20%, that sort of thing. So it doesn't matter how long it is, as long as it's presented in the right way. If you've got a lot to say, just say it and don't worry about it, if you know what I mean. But also equally, if you only have something short to say, and don't try to drag it out because you feel like you need to. Just say what you need to say, and your readers will appreciate that.
Okay, cool.
So that reminded me of, that's it. Okay. So I've heard this from before, like for Twitter, like if you're trying to get a nonfiction book published, right? An agent might take you, or an editor might take you seriously if you have like at least 2,000 followers on Twitter. At least, right? I know they want more, but at least like that's something. Is there some sort of sweet number for followers on Substack like that you're hearing?
I think this is a difficulty because publishers and agents will always say it's the quality of your writing that matters more than anything else. I think that is still the case, but I think they also do want to see that you have a platform. If they do decide to take you on, they want to know that you're able to get your work out there without them having to do all the work. Because a lot of publishers will do very little. Some of them will do a lot, but a lot of them will just kind of leave it to you. They'll get the book out there, but then they'll leave it to you to promote it. I would just say, like everything, the more followers, more subscribers you have, the more you've got to work with. So if you can do that in a way that's sustainable, that doesn't stress you out, that doesn't make you feel less about yourself as a writer or a creator in comparison to somebody else, see what other people are doing, like follow their example. Like, I talked about Russell before. I basically copied some stuff that he's done because he's great and he's doing such a good job at it. So don't be afraid to borrow what other people are doing and learn from that, but don't compare yourself with anybody else. Don't worry about how many followers or subscribers somebody else has compared to you. There's the adage, like, if you have 1,000 true fans, you can do what you're doing full time, as a creator. So it's more about creating that connection with the audience that you do have than trying to just build exponentially. But if you do have more subscribers, more followers, it makes it easier to get more and to make something more sustainable long term. I use the word sustainable a lot. Sorry, I keep constantly saying this, but it's because a lot of writing platforms and like personal platforms become unsustainable very quickly because people throw themselves into stuff and they use a lot of short-term gimmicks to try and grow quickly, and they try to churn out tons of content, and then they realize after a while that they can't sustain it, so then it falls apart very quickly. So it's all about trying to do something that you can manage for 10 years, not for like 10 months. If you want to stick at it and do something that's really meaningful, that can change your life, you got to do something that's sustainable long term.
I want to ask you, David, about podcasting on Substack.
Yeah.
So I already have a podcast. I've had it for like almost 2 years, and occasionally I post my podcast episodes on Substack. And the reason I don't put it there because I feel it's a bit limited, and like, what's the point of putting it on Substack? I'm kind of confused about podcasting on Substack and what is the point, because I like to keep my podcast open, and limiting it to few subscribers, I think, defines the purpose of having a podcast. How do you feel about that?
Well, I haven't got a podcast on Substack just yet. It's something I might do further down the line once I kind of get into a regular rhythm with other things first. But I know that they've recently integrated with Spotify. Yes, which is great. It means you can obviously reach a bigger audience then in that sense. But at the same time, you can equally just share links to wherever you're promoting your podcast somewhere else within Substack. I saw a post from, Linda at Substack, who posts a lot on it, one of the employees, and she said that they don't suppress links within the platform. So if you do want to take people off the platform somewhere else, they're not gonna suppress that on notes, for instance. And I would say that it's within your publication, and you can do that as much as you like, and you can just share a link there. So I think just use whatever platform works best for you, whatever you like best. I'm gonna grow mine within Substack whenever the time comes to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, I don't have plans to do it in the next few months. It'll be further down the line. I'll be copying you, Natasha, because you already know what you're doing, so I'll be learning from you in that sense.
Anytime. You helped me a lot. I'm happy to return the favor. So, which actually brings me to another question, which is I noticed on Substack, unlike other places, the Substack employees are very active and they're there like as part of the community. We did this, we did that. And I don't see that on other platforms. And you mentioned Linda. Who's Linda again? Yeah, I know Sarah who works there as a Substack consultant, but who's Linda? And
Uh,
and I like this relationship between Substack and the writers. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know exactly who she's Linda at Substack, I think, but she's basically there. She's one of the employees who works there, and she shares a lot of helpful notes and posts about what they're doing and their latest updates and things like that. So she's worth following.
Okay.
And she like replies to you as well. If you ask her a question, she'll actually get back to you and that
Oh,
sort of thing, which is good. But as you said, yeah, Substack's got a nice connection between the employees and the actual users of the platform, which is nice. They do seem to listen to what we say,
yeah.
for the most part. And again,
Sounds
you obviously
great.
have, yeah, you have users of other platforms who are on them a lot, like Elon Musk is on Twitter all the time, but what he shares isn't overly useful. Whereas I think, on Substack it actually is useful, and you can connect with them there. So yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. And I noticed they're like Substack consultant. Um, so do you think many authors on Substack are just writing about Substack? And I saw the criticism that like, are we just is it becoming like what's the word, like
Like
a Ponzi,
self-referential or
or like
something.
like a Ponzi scheme, where like writers on Substack are talking about Substack so that they can get paid subscribers who wants to grow paid subscribers on Substack.
Yeah.
Uh, what do you feel about this criticism on Substack?
I think every platform there's a danger there. With every platform, people will start to share what works for them, and I do that too. Like if I figure out something that works, I'll share it on Substack too. But I do try to keep that into like a separate compartment, and that's why I'm creating this like resource hub for my paid subscribers, so I can put all that kind of stuff there, where they can go in and find it, and then they can find that information and grow as well. I mean, Medium does that like all the time. Like every second post on Medium is about how to grow a Medium, essentially. And people, the most successful writers on Twitter will do that too. They'll talk about how to grow on Twitter and stuff. So it just happens. And for me, like I've always been tempted to create another Substack publication that's just purely about how to grow on Substack, but I like to try and keep it more varied and to talk about how to grow as a writer and build a platform in that sense, because it obviously does go beyond Substack substantially. Like it's a great platform, but there are other options out there which can connect in with it, like Medium and other social media platforms too. So yeah.
If you have to choose, if there's a gun to your head and you have to choose one platform to grow as an author, what would you choose?
I would choose Substack right now. Twitter and more traditional platforms of that are still great. You can obviously use Instagram, you can use TikTok, but so many of those are based on the attention economy. You have to get attention and keep it all the time, and it's exhausting trying to do that. Whereas because Substack is built on a email sort of creator economy, then it's easier. You can pick up actual fans of what you're doing and keep them and connect with them more directly. So yeah, I think for me, Substack is the place to be in that sense. Yeah.
So we have a few minutes left. Any final questions? Because this is your chance to learn from the experts, and you get all of that for free. So great. So
Great. Yeah,
Can
it's
you, can
funny
you go
because, sorry.
Can you go over your publication schedule again? Like for instance, how to write, like how many times do you publish just on that one a week?
So on that one, I would do 3 times a week. So at the minute, it's like Tuesday, Thursday, and then a roundup post on Saturday, which is just a collection of other people's work that I'll link to and kind of shout out and highlight for my followers. And then Solopreneur Stack is Monday, Wednesday, and sort of every second Friday, that sort of thing. And then my fiction one is sort of once a week on a Friday, but I'll probably increase that over time. Just not enough days in the week, Christina, you know, trying to
And
squeeze
do
it all in.
and do you do a mix of just free and paid public? Like how do you decide what's going to be paid and what's going to be free?
Good question. So I'll try to do at least one free piece a week for each publication and then one paid. I want my paid subscribers to get their money's worth, obviously, and then I want my free subscribers to still feel that they're not getting shut out from everything as well. I've also created like a chapter, or sorry, like a table of contents post, which I pinned on my publication's main page, which I saw somebody else do. Again, I just told them somebody else. But it has links to every single post within the publication, so people can go in and browse and immediately see the value that they'll get from becoming a paid subscriber, because everything within that will eventually be paid. It'll drop behind the paywall after maybe 6 months. So they want to get access to everything. It's right there. So I think it's worth doing that, because if it's just like social proof. If you can show people what they're going to get if they subscribe, then that's helpful. Yeah, but again, to do it for based on your own schedule, what's going to work for you. Don't exhaust yourself. Don't be one of the short-term burnouts. Build up to it over time. Just do what works for you now.
You said that most of your previous articles would become paid. Is that automatic? Did you set it up to be automated like that, or do you have to go in there and change it for each?
You can automate it. So if you go into your settings, I can't remember where exactly it is, but there's a little box you can tick that drops everything behind the paywall, and you can set when that is. You can do it like within a couple of weeks if you want, or you can do it after a year. It just depends what way you want to work it.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
I have a question. So I'm kind of wondering, like, do you also have a blog, or is this just really your primary source of how you're creating content and getting content out to your community? Like, because I've been like basically preparing and getting ready to launch a new blog that is specifically detailing with travel and wellness. And now I'm really thinking, I'm like, it sounds to me like Substack could essentially be the house for this content. And instead of having a blog, just having like a website instead of like you know what I mean? I feel like this is where I'm going to see a lot more engagement than in the traditional blogging sense. Like, do you think that's the case?
It can be, yeah. I also think it's perfectly okay to do both. I know that SEO experts will say, don't share the same content in more than one place and that sort of thing. But I think it matters less and less as time goes on, because Google's changing stuff so much at the minute. A lot of traditional blogs are getting buried in the new algorithms. So I think it's something I might do personally further down the line. I might add another blog, and I might share some of my favorite pieces from Substack and Medium onto that too, to just create another source for people to find, and then like link back to Substack and Medium through that. Again, if you got your own blog, you can control what you do, so you can literally share, like a snippet of your blog post, and then take them to Substack if you want to do that too. Again, it's all based on the time you have, Nicole. If it's gonna consume lots of time for you and make it difficult, then just stick with one thing. Substack can basically do all that for you if you like. But if you want to experiment with other platforms and other locations, then give it a go and see what works.
Cool. Thanks.
No worries.
Last question is about threads in Substack. If you can explain to them what threads are in Substack and how people are monetizing them.
So that's like the chat feature within your publication. And I'm experimenting with it all the time as well. I think it's just it's a great opportunity to connect with your followers and your subscribers and also figure out what they want. So, I put a post in chat a couple of days ago that was basically like, what's your biggest challenge on Substack right now? And I got like 100 replies from people, and every single reply could be the title of an article on Substack. So it helps you understand exactly what people want, and you can correlate and see what's a common theme within that, and then that's what you can tackle in your writing. But it's just a good way to connect as well, and people can connect within that with each other. So you kind of create that community feel around your publication. And what you can do as well is you can put out paid only chats in that too. So there's that kind of FOMO aspect to it where people can see there's a paid chat, but they can't see what's in it unless they're paid subscribers. So they maybe want to sign up to see that too. So I try to put out at least one free and one paid thread a week. At the minute, I'm going to increase that over time as well, because I think there's real good opportunity there to do more with that.
Yeah, those paid those paid threads drive me crazy because I want to press. I was like, "Ah!" It's like how many subscribers I'm gonna pay for. But anyways, well, thank you, David. This has been wonderful. Any final questions, comments? Anyone? We've taken your time for an hour, and really appreciate it. And I put hope you don't mind, I put your email. I figured it's out in the public, so it's okay to share
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
Your email, and I put links to David Substack and all the people that he mentioned as well for everyone to follow him. And this is also being recorded. I'm gonna put it in the syllabus for if you guys wanna watch it again, it's available for you. And thank you very much, David. Any last comments, David?
Thank you
No,
so
is
much.
it?
Christina?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really helpful, especially I think for someone new. I still consider myself new to Substack, and I think my mind is like buzzing right now with everything that I want to do on there and create on there. And I didn't even, I think, realize how much you could do on there as you can. And I'm very inspired. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that was helpful. Yeah, and it was great to meet you guys. And just keep doing what you're doing and just dive in and give it a real go. And I'm confident if you stick with it for a while, you really see the benefit over time, and you really enjoy it.
Well,
Sure. Thank you very much, David. Thank you. Take care.